Yeah, so we should be recording now. So, what's your name?
My name is Sparkle Bubble 12.
Yeah, so nice to meet you, Sparkle Bubble 12. I'm HM Torres. So, we're gonna be discussing veganism. I have two debate propositions. So, the first one is that veganism is morally superior to the standard American diet. And the second
Dude,
debate proposition is going to be that veganism actually extends logically from universal human rights. So if you believe in human rights, you should also logically extend rights to animals, at least the basic rights. Yeah, so tell me what do you know about veganism? Have you heard the word vegan before?
so veganism is quite different from vegetarian. Veganism is the complete diet or lack thereof animal meat and everything. It also includes eggs, milk, and anything that are subdivisioned from animals. So, summarizing animals and the products of animals, while vegans just don't eat the meat, but they would eat product of animal, if I am correct.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You're correct, and it actually extends from diet. So it's not only about diet. So the definition of veganism is a philosophy or way of life which seeks to exclude all forms of animal cruelty and exploitation as far as possible and practicable. So it's not only for food, but also for fashion, for like clothing, and also for entertainment and for and needless research.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. You knew the basic the difference between vegetarianism and veganism. So let me ask you, what do you eat? Do you eat animals yourself?
I do eat meat. I eat all kinds of meat, but I don't eat fish just for preference. I don't enjoy the taste of fish because
Okay.
the distinct smell. That's how it tastes to me.
Okay. Yeah, Texas is like big on animal products, right? I visited once and they took me to a restaurant. It's all kinds of meats and stuff. So, what do you think about vegans? Do you have any vegan friends and stuff? What do you think
I
generally about vegans?
I think that it is. It depends. I think that it could be a range from just a lifestyle that is chosen from oneself, or I think that it can be stupidity in a way. And I'm not going to get ahead of myself, and I don't want people to out me on this. But when I say stupidity, I say the people that do not do the lack of research or that have the lack of research because of the fact I have taken culinary arts in my days of living, and it is actually quite harmful for yourself if you do not meet the daily, weekly, monthly, however time frame wise of protein vitamins. You need protein in order for your muscles to build.
Sure.
So the reason why people that are muscle builders and bodybuilders get a lot of muscle really quickly is because they eat like a lot of eggs, they eat like peanuts and just stuff with a lot of protein in it to help your muscles rebuild. Because what is happening is the reason why you're sore is your muscles are tearing on themselves and rebuilding and strengthening, and how they rebuild those cells, kind of like whenever you scratch yourself and you get a scab, those cells are rebuilding themselves. But the cells on the inside with your muscles, when they rebuild, they need the protein in order to rebuild, or you're just not going to be doing anything. So the vegans that are actually very, very mal and misinformed, I think that it is very dangerous and very like
Sure.
bad
Yeah.
situation for them to put themselves in, because of the fact that no one needs to malnourish themselves, because that could be turning into an eating disorder, um, well, not an eating disorder, but like it could turn into very malnourishment, and it can be very harmful on their life. But if I had a friend that is vegan and he did every single precaution correctly and he met his necessary vitamin count and he was very well nourished. And so I think that it's just a way of life in that case.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you. And would you say that's actually true for any diet? Like, if you don't plan your diet correctly and you eat really poorly, you can malnourish yourself in any diet. Do you agree with that?
What is the next um,
Sparkle bubble.
opposition?
Do you,
Yes?
did you hear my question?
No, I did not.
I'm sorry, my audio might have cut off. So my question was, do you agree that that could be true of any diet? That you could, in any diet, you could eat very poorly and malnourish yourself if you don't eat a well balanced diet of any type?
Yes, going back to what I said about culinary, there is I believe that there was five major food groups. There was grain, fruit, vegetable, protein, and dairy. Off the top of my head, I think those are correct. And you need every single one of those per day in order to meet your correct vitamin count.
Yeah. So
And
so you don't actually need dairy
okay.
to yeah.
Oh, there can be supplements, but just basically speaking, from the like overview, those are the basic five nutrients that you would need daily.
Yeah.
There are substitutions for dairy, like you said, but back to your question about diets being malnourishable. I do believe that a lot of diets do malnourish you because you think that you need smaller portions but the same food a lot of the time when truly you don't. It's how you cook it, it's what necessarily is on your plate, and it's the certain parts of your plate. Like the vegetables need to be basically as big as the meat section, and the meat section needs to be as big as your vegetables, so to speak, in
Yeah, and it
actual
doesn't. By
plate
the way,
makeup.
sorry to cut you off, but it
No, you're
doesn't
good.
necessarily have to be a meat section, right? You can also substitute that, right?
Okay, yes, protein, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm used
sure,
to saying
sure.
meat because it's like it's typical whenever you go out to eat or whenever you fix a plate. Like the main dish is usually meat, so to speak. But I did mean protein. Thank you for catching that.
That's
But
cool.
yes,
And I
in
actually
basic.
think, sorry, I actually think,
No, you're
right?
good.
You meant that you need about when you were talking about the categories, you mean like macronutrients, like so. There's carbs, carbohydrates, right? There's
Yes, like
protein. There's also fats, and
yes.
there's a fourth one. I'm forgetting now.
Um,
So carbs,
lipid is
protein.
fat, carb is
Yes, the
carb,
fats. Yeah.
protein, and it can't be sugars, can it? I don't know.
Yeah. So sugars are just a basic form of carbs. So glucose is a
Okay.
carbohydrate. Yeah. There's a
Yeah, I'm
basic
not
and
quite
complex
sure what that
carbohydrate.
fourth one would be.
Yeah. So let me look it up really quick so we get the confusion out of the way.
Yeah. Well, while you're looking that up, basically what I was saying is that the makeup of the plate is to be that thereof vegetables being more than your protein. And I think that you will get full, but your dietary not your dietary, but your intestines process food a lot quicker with certain things than others. Like meat, it takes a lot longer to break down.
Yeah, so I looked it up, and it's actually those three main groups of macronutrients. So
Oh,
carbs,
okay.
fats, and protein. And some people also include dietary fiber as the fourth one.
Okay.
And then there's also the micronutrients, so like the vitamins and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
So would you say that someone could survive and be healthy on a plant-based diet? Do you think that's possible? You said that your friend did, right?
I think it is possible if you do it correctly. And I think that it
Sure.
is totally possible, but it's also very possible that most of the time, not most of the time, but like it's a very likely possibility that the person that is undergoing that is severely like not getting enough protein that they need and or
Okay.
dairy.
Where do you think protein comes from?
Protein comes from a lot of different places, but what is
Sure.
specifically your question?
Yeah, but like, where does protein come from originally? Like, what are the component parts of protein come from?
Shoot, I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah, so you wouldn't say they come from
Carbon?
animals, right?
Not necessarily. Protein's a certain
Yeah. You know about amino acids, right?
yes, that's what it is. Thank you.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so actually all the essential amino acids that we need to live, we can actually find them in plants. And the animals that
Yeah.
you eat, they actually get their protein from eating plants. So they eat either grass or grains, and that's how they get their protein.
Yes, and that makes sense because
Yeah,
um
and I don't think there's anything specifically in dairy that we need to survive. Like, I think there's calcium, and we can get calcium from plant-based sources as well.
okay, yeah, I do agree, but like I said earlier, like you would have to eat bigger consumptions to fill that as meat. Like you'd have to eat a lot more, um, say peanuts or a lot more eggs to combat that of
Not
eating
eggs if you're a vegan.
meat. Huh?
Not eggs if you're a vegan.
Oh shoot, I am sorry.
That's cool. That's cool.
Shoot. Yeah, no, but
So yeah,
speaking theoretically for not just for just not eating meat, like other supplements, eggs for vegetarians, peanuts. I know that there is protein powder available at nutrition
yeah,
shops, and then I know there are other combinations. And you did say that there is protein within certain plants, like the
yeah.
amino acids that are found in proteins.
That's true.
But
And you actually, if you eat enough calories,
mhm,
protein deficiency is actually really rare. So if you're eating a well balanced diet, you can get your protein from different sources like grains,
mhm,
legumes, stuff like that. And even
yeah,
vegetables have protein. Yeah.
okay.
So do you know about the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics?
Personally, no.
Yeah, so it is the largest organization of nutritional experts in the world, and they released a peer-reviewed statement declaring that the plant-based diets are nutritionally adequate throughout all stages of the life cycle. And it's true what you said. Obviously, if you are consuming enough calories, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, you won't have any problem. So if you want, I could share the link with you so you have a look at it. Yeah, because I'm not actually a nutritionist, so I have
Oh
to trust
yeah.
what the science says.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know why you said that. Sorry, I was deep in thought.
Cool. Yeah. So can I share the link with you real quick?
Yes.
Yeah. So you should have get. Uh, I sent you the link. So let me know if you got it.
And I know that it is official because it's a .gov website.
That's true. Yeah, it's pretty short. So if you want, you can have a read.
Okay.
Let me know when you're done. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm just reading. It was short. Oh, okay. I'm done. Hello?
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Just my finger slipped from the push to talk thing. So yeah, as you saw, it says that it's nutritionally adequate throughout all stages of the life cycle. So for pregnant women, even for children, adolescents, and even includes athletes. So you said earlier something about bodybuilders that they need meat for protein. So
I
there's
needed
actually
protein.
so there's actually a lot of vegan bodybuilders and athletes as well.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So
Um,
so do you agree on the empirical fact that you can actually be healthy on a plant-based diet?
yes, and I've never disagreed on that.
Cool. Yeah. We could get the health aspect out of the way. So I
Ah,
want to discuss the ethics.
okay. This will be interesting.
Yeah. So would you say that if you could survive and be healthy without harming animals, would you say that's morally superior? Or do you think that's just a matter of choice and you see animals on the same plane as like plants?
Mm, I think it depends. Cause like I think that it is. This is just my opinion too. I mean, I don't speak for all meat eaters and all this.
Sure.
Me personally, as a human being that is deciding to not be vegan, um, I think that what do you call it? It is d- dependent on the situation because, say, deer hunting, right? Hunting deer for sport and just doing it just because I don't agree with, and I think it is immoral
Okay.
because it's um for no reason. But if you do it for food, it is different because
Okay,
of the
so
fact
let
that
me ask you something really quick. So you
okay.
said there's a difference in the intent there. So what
Mhm.
would you say if someone used that same logic and applied it to, for example, dogs, cats, or even humans? What would you say about that?
Um, I would say, where do you get your moral intellect from? What determines food, like the line of food to the line of not food? It is morally incorrect to eat another human being because, say, um, in the what do you call it? The animal kingdom, uh, a lot of the time, the certain genus aspect of it goes with their pack. Like you do not see dogs and cats having a litter of animals together. Dogs are with
Sure.
dogs, cats are with cats. They're in their own certain areas. And so humans view humans in a different aspect to other things, right? Like say a life of a bear attacking a little toddler, it's viewed different because of the fact that we as humans are viewing that toddler and the bear, and we view human to human contact. And so psychologically, that's why a lot of morality is different based on other humans because
Sure.
of that aspect. Now, for dogs and cats, I think it is based solely on culture and also morality. And also, it can be a lot to do with like religion and all this other stuff. So, culture, I know that a lot of different cultures view it okay to eat those types of animals. Um, Me personally,
Sure.
I don't view that as okay, but I do think that it is in your stem of morality and how you view
Sure.
that as an
Can I
option.
respond?
Yeah.
So yeah, you actually touch on a couple of things there. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I would like to go one at it at a time. So you talk first about how the intent justifies it first, and then you talk a little bit about morality, and you said that you talk descriptively about like how moral agency evolves within humanity, and then you talked about how it is a cultural thing why we eat pigs but not dogs. Yeah, so I would like to go one at a time so we don't get too from thrown from one to the other too quickly. So let's talk about first about the intent. Do you agree that just the intent alone doesn't justify violence? So for example, if someone says, yeah, I killed that person because I'm gonna eat it, it wasn't for sport, I'm just gonna eat it. Do you agree that that alone is not a good justification to harm somebody?
Yes. Let me go a little further on that because I was going to touch up on that as well. So, I think the intent to eat uh to eat an animal is different than like like the farms that overcrowd and they're in horrible conditions until they're ultimately packaged and
Yeah,
like
factory farms.
packaged in all these things. Sorry.
Yeah, like factory
But
farms, like actually like
I think
99% of meat comes from factory farms, like in the United States and even Puerto Rico, which is U.S. territory. Like 99% of all meat comes from those kinds of places that you're talking about. Yeah.
and I do not think that that is morally right. Um for those animals to typically endure that just to ultimately be packaged. I really think that that is immorally right.
Can I ask why?
But
Why do you think that's wrong?
well, because of the fact that the circle of life happens no matter what. I mean, that goes for predator and prey all the time, no matter if they were in farms or not, factory farms or not. They would have been predator and prey, whether it was um, life and ultimately death, and
Sure.
or like animals being predators. And the circle of life will happen no matter what we do. And I think that
Sure,
um,
but would you say like sure that there's horrible things that happen in nature, like some animals like rape each other, some animals eat their own babies and stuff. You wouldn't say that, for example, because some animals do that in the wild, we are justified in doing that in human civilization, would you?
no, that's not what I was saying. I was saying
Of
that all
course.
that was going to happen anyway. Um, but while we're on this earth, or while the animals are on this earth, even though the cycle of life happens and we are using those animals for food and allowing like the milk from cows, the eggs from chickens to be something in our everyday lives. Well, someone that is not a vegan, um, I feel like morally we should treat the animals with enough respect to, not overcrowd them. Because, I mean, if we overcrowd them, then it could lead to harming and unnecessarily things. And
Sure,
someone that
but
believes that is unnecessarily, or not unnecessarily, but unmoral, um, like, I think it is unmoral that um, certain animals have to go through that in order for human gain. So
sure.
the usage of animals as food to me is not wrong, but
Okay.
the
Can I
way that
respond?
America is going about doing it is yes.
That's cool. Yeah, so you said a couple of things there. So first you
Oh,
said that's cool. That's cool. So you said something about the circle of life, and I think it's kind of funny when people bring that up. It's actually a line from the Lion King. It's actually
that's
a
exactly what
song.
I was
Yeah,
thinking of when I said it.
yeah. So you might have meant the food chain, but I know what you mean, and
Oh,
then
okay.
you said something about when I hear people say I get worried when people bring up the cycle of life, because most people what they when they say that they mean like might makes right, which I think that's wrong. Just because we can do something does it's not necessarily mean that it's right. And then you said something about how those animals are gonna go through that anyways, which is not
Oh yeah, I
necessarily
know.
true because we are actually breeding those animals into existence and doing that to them. So you said something also about the way that we do it is wrong, but it's just the reality is that it's just it's a numbers thing. There's 70 billion humans to feed,
Mm-hmm.
so there's really no way right now
To
for
go
us
about it,
to farm animals in a way without the factory farm anymore.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, and I do want to say like I did not say that it makes it morally right for like just because they could be going through that anyway, like cuz I know that they wouldn't be going through that. What I meant is predator prey would happen
Sure,
regardless if we were doing that, and they would get old regardless if we had farms or not,
sure.
and they could be used for food regardless if we were having the farms or not. And that's what I meant, and it wasn't
Okay.
to like say that factory farms are right in any way.
Okay. So, but would you agree that we actually have the choice, right? We have moral agency. We have the choice to make more compassionate options.
Yes.
Yeah. And about the factory farm. So, do you agree that there's really no way for us to feed 7 billion humans without factory farming?
And that's why I feel that a lot of things have not been done more because of the fact that if it could have been done, we would have already done it. And that's why a lot of the time nothing is done, and that's just how it is. And that
Yeah.
it
And
is sad.
why do you think those places? Why do those places exist, like the factory farms?
Well, I think it probably just started like everyone had farms back in the day, like back in ancient times, back in 1900s, however far back before, you know, supermarkets and restaurants and all that were a thing. Um, because back then they had to do it themselves, and cattle was always a way of life, but as accommodation, like within the 1900s, say the washing machine was invented, the vacuum was invented,
Yeah. So,
just
like the
different
Industrial
things.
Revolution.
Yes. So a lot of different industrial. Yes, that was the industrial. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Like our ancestors have been doing this like since the beginning of history, right? And they
Mhm.
actually might have been even justified to do this because they had to do it to survive. But
Mhm.
now we have other alternatives, so we don't necessarily need to keep doing this. So my question, what I meant by my question is why not how the factory farms originate, but how do you think they remain in existence today?
So, like we were saying before, it is a choice. It's unfortunately not a great choice. Because we have no other accommodations for cattle or for any of the factory farms to be more spacious and
Exactly. Yeah.
be more like morally correct. But it is a choice whether or not the person wants to live by veganism or if they want to live um by meat, because if I would like to, or if I could interject this, a lot of supplements, because I was reading on the website you got, and I believe, let me pull it up one more time,
Yeah.
because
So like supplementing with B12.
yes, that's exactly what it was.
That's
So
correct. Yes.
they need reliable sources. Vegans need reliable sources of vitamin B12, such as fortified foods or supplements. So
That's
additional
correct.
supplements or additional fortified food, and additional high intakes of vegetables, fruits, whole grain, legume. I can't ever say that word.
Legumes.
yes, soy products, nuts, and seeds, rich in fiber and cytochemicals. Um,
Yes,
so
phytochemicals. Yeah.
see,
Yeah,
I don't know how
so
to pronounce.
that you can actually get all your nutrients from directly from a plant-based diet. The only thing they recommend supplementing is B12, which is, and they actually doctors recommend everybody, vegan or not, to supplement with B12 because B12 deficiency is actually really common. But it is especially common for vegans because B12 is not from animal origin, but it is from bacterial origin, and it comes some bacteria in the soil produce the B12, and it used to happen that like we used to eat animals, and the animals ate the B12 directly from the soil in the ground, and then we ate the animals. But nowadays, most animals in factory farms are fed with grains anyway, so we actually supplement animals before killing them either way. So I would say that it would be more ethical to just take the B12 directly instead of just supplementing an animal and then killing it for the B12. Would you agree?
Um, I mean, I can see what your point is, but so my point of let me take it back a little bit. My point of reading all that out is I came from uh a family that had not that much money, and we would buy processed stuff, as in chili in a can. If it was $1, that was a great thing, because the thing is, one can of chili meant one less meal that you would have to go without. And so a lot of the time we didn't get to pick and choose what we were able to get. It's just what was on sale. And a lot of the time, vegetables, fruits, and most of the stuff that was said, not only that, and the vitamin B12 would be a huge,
Yeah. So
huge, huge
let
financial cost
let me ask you
dissector compared to just buying the meat and eating it.
let me ask you this: what do you think is the cheapest food in the whole world? Like the poorest of the poor can afford it. What would you say it is?
Mm, well, rice
Yeah,
is
that's
pretty cheap.
vegan. Yeah, so like rice, beans, lentils, certain
Yeah.
vegetables, potatoes, pasta. That's like the cheapest food in the grocery store. So you can actually save money from eating a plant-based diet like that.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah, and about the B12, doctors actually recommend the general population to supplement B12. You can also choose to eat fortified foods, but I would think it's more reliable to just take a multivitamin in the morning. I don't think that's too inconvenient, and you can get a good price for a B12 cyanocobalamin pill. Yeah,
that
so
makes sense.
Yeah. So, what do you think about my first debate proposition? Like, would you say it would actually be morally superior to remove animal suffering from our life if we had the alternatives, and even the economic? Because some people might not. Like, some people might be somewhere in the world where they don't have any alternatives. But if you
Yeah.
live somewhere where you have the options, would you say it is morally superior to stay away from animal suffering from supporting it directly with your money and financing those industries that you agreed were immoral?
So I have a question about that. You're just referring to those specific factories, or just
No.
animals in general?
Yeah, no. And by the way, I want to like say sorry if I'm a little out of breath because I'm actually walking right now. So
You're good.
yeah, but I'm actually not. I think using animals in general right now in this stage in civilization is actually immoral. Any kind of farming. I think like animals are here with us. They're not for us for our use. And if we could survive and be healthy on a whole plant-based diet, I think exploiting and enslaving and chopping animals into pieces is actually pretty wrong, no matter how you do it. Even if you give an animal a good life, like we could use as an analogy a dog. Like if we give your dog or your cat a good life, it doesn't justify stabbing it in the neck with a knife and killing it. I think is immoral either way. If we had other options available to us.
Okay. Okay, so I specifically disagree. I do not disagree with the immoral attitudes with how animals are being produced, but I disagree with the whole attitude towards just eating animals in general is a immoral thing. I don't know how to phrase that. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And what I would like to ask you is actually what like to challenge you. There's something called name the trait, and I would say that, for example, you would be against. You're in favor of human rights, right? Like universal human rights.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So you think it would be wrong to, for example, Holocaust humans, right?
Oh, yes.
Like and we right now are holocausting. So the definition of holocausting is a slaughter on a mass scale. I don't mean like the Jewish Holocaust specifically or anything, just
Yeah,
the
I know.
dictionary use of holocaust. We're holocausting 70 billion land animals every year and trillions of fish, so like 2 or 3 trillion fish every year.
Yeah.
And you would say that a human holocaust is wrong, but you wouldn't say that's wrong. And what I would like to ask you, what's the morally significant difference there between the two that makes one wrong and the other one okay?
Okay. So, I do have a source prepared in front of me. Um, so, uh, it will be a little long. Would you mind if I read it out to you?
Sure, but by the way, I just so we stay in the question of name the trait. What I would like to is to name a trait or more than, it can be more than one. So a trait or a number of traits that justifies the difference in treatment between the animals and humans.
I will after I read the source, but the source kind of justifies how I'm gonna say it.
Okay, that's cool.
So
You can read it. That's okay.
I I am a Christian, and
Okay.
this is why I believe the way I believe, and I will justify this a little bit more after.
Yeah. So
But
so
this is
you would say that your own morality you base it from the Judeo-Christian tradition.
um yeah, let me read this source. This is from Genesis
Sure. Go ahead.
20, and it is quite a little bit long. It's from 20 to 26. And it says, and God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky." So God created the creatures of the sea and every living thing which the water teems and that moves around in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on earth." And there was evening, and then there was morning. And there was morning the fifth day. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And and God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our own image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish and this in the sea, and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all of the wild animals, and over the creatures that move along the ground." End quote. So that basically says I mean,
Yeah,
it proves
beautifully,
the.
beautifully read. Yeah, it's very poetic. The Bible is a wonderful document, right?
Of course. So this basically, scientifically speaking, it ensures the whole genealogy thing I was saying before about how everything stays in its own kind. Um, like it said, um, the the creatures of the sea, or the great creatures of the sea, and every living thing which the water teems, which I think that means like it touches, basically, and moves around in it according to their kinds. He said that, or this, God had said this about birds, about livestock, about every single thing that was created, which proves the genealogy that dogs with dogs, cats with cats, like I was saying before. And
Sure.
back to all that, at the end it said mankind is supposed to rule over that, which means that
Yes.
we're able to eat the livestock if we do so chose, which
Uh,
makes it
can I ask you a few things about that?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I actually know exactly what you mean. I was also raised as a Catholic Christian. And
Oh,
I
okay.
actually I read a wonderful book that's called Dominion. It was written by a vegan Christian. So there's nothing against Christianity to be a vegan.
Yeah.
And there's actually there's some he argues that we actually misinterpret the word dominion. So what dominion is meant is not that God, good, all loving God gave us permission to do whatever we want with animals. It wasn't the case. What God gave us was a guardianship over animals, and he gave us permission to kill animals
Mm-hmm.
if we needed to. But if for example, I have a question for you. Do you think a good God, and you think God is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you think? Do you think he might think if we could survive and be healthy without eating animals anymore and without harming them? Do you think God what do you think God would think about that? Like, for example, the Bible was written in very different times. It might be justified to eat animals in those times, but right now we have other alternatives, and there's 7 billion humans to feed, for example, and there's no way around the factory farm. So, do you think an all-loving God would actually prefer if we avoid harming animals?
Mm,
And let me ask you a more simple question before that. So, do you think
okay.
being vegan is against the Bible? Do you think it
No.
directly contradicts the Bible?
Oh no. Not at all. Because
Sure,
for me, the Bible, it's all about free will. Like,
sure,
sin entered the world because of free will. Like, we are allowed to make our own choices just based on the Bible, like, aspect of all this.
of
We are
course,
allowed to make our own choices, which is free will. We can choose what the Bible says, we can choose what the Bible doesn't say. And just because someone is choosing veganism does not mean they're going against the Bible, because
of course.
it
And
says that
you wouldn't say that
we
it is
are
a sin,
supposed
right?
to, huh?
You wouldn't say that it is a sin either, right?
No, it says that mankind should roll over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and livestock, and all that kind of stuff. So roll over the fish in the sea does not mean eat the fish. It means you can eat the fish if you need to, and
Exactly.
if that is your food source, and if you are hungry, you are able to eat the fish.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it does say you do, like, you can't eat certain things like shrimp and stuff like that, like scavengers. It goes into like details about that, but as for fish and as for cows, it does not say anything morally wrong about eating them if you are hungry. Now, it also does not say you're not allowed to not eat them, so I do not believe that that is a sin to be vegan.
Okay, sure. So, what would you personally think is a better interpretation of the dominion that God gave us in the Genesis story? Do you think it would be a better interpretation to say that God actually gave us guardianship over the animals to take care of them, and He actually gave us permission to eat them if we actually if it was necessary for us, or do you think it would be a better interpretation to say that God gave us permission to do whatever we want with animals, like harm them,
Um,
mass breed them, and kill them
I
by the billions? What do you think?
I think it's you're gonna freak out when I say this, but I think it's a bit of both based on the titles you said. Based on the explanations, I do not agree with the whole harming thing. I think that everything you said in the first one would be correct, and the whole title that you gave the second part was that we are able to reign with however we do so choose. I think that that is correct. The harming them and the unmorally and unjust rights that we do put them through, I don't think that that follows through with what the Bible necessarily says, because
Okay,
of the fact that the Bible is our moral standard. We know moral standards. We know not to harm people. We know not to harm on purpose. We know not to do bad things on purpose. And we are brought up to know that those are unmorally things. And so, based on a Christian's way of thinking about how to treat a certain animal, even though we get free reign, or we get to uh, rule over the fish and the birds and the cattle, or just the land roamers, livestock, I think that we can, like, we rule over that. So
sure.
that means that we can, what do you mean guard, as you're saying? Like, be
Yeah, so
guardian?
guardianship would be something like just taking care of them, and
Yeah.
and if we have the opportunity to live without harming them and killing them and exploiting them, it would include not doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I believe in ruling over that one line right there, that sets us apart from animals, and that also makes human life that much more valuable,
Sure,
in
and I
my
actually agree
opinion.
with you that human life is more valuable as well. I
Okay.
just don't think that animal life is so sufficiently invaluable that it justifies
Mhm.
just harming them for taste pleasure, for example. Let me
Oh,
ask you
yeah, yeah.
something. Do you think animals are capable of suffering?
Yes.
Yeah, so would see like a morally significant difference between like biting an apple and like taking a dog and cutting his throat or something like that, right?
So to speak, yeah, that would be different.
Yeah, so one of them is sentient and the other is not, right? Do you know what sentient
Yes.
means? Yeah. So it's the ability to have a subjective experience, and we have animals, including humans, we have central nervous systems and the capacity to experience suffering, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So, for example, would you say, like, if from your own moral, from the morality that you adhere to, would you say that it is wrong to harm animals just because of our taste pleasure, or would you say that's a good enough justification?
Well, it also depends on the situation. So, say
Sure.
for the taste pleasure,
Yeah, but just for taste pleasure. Let's just hypothetically say someone is gonna kill and eat an animal just because it's tasty. Do you think that alone is a good justification for the violence, or no?
no.
Yeah, and you wouldn't say that about any other sense, right? Like, so let's say somebody likes the sound of an animal dying, or something like that. That would be horrifying, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you would say like an all loving God would actually think it's wrong to harm animals just because we think they're tasty.
Um, I don't know. So, so to speak, for that, because of the fact that the animals were given to us to roll over. So,
Sure, sure.
yeah, so to
Yeah,
speak about how that, I'm not sure about that.
Sure. Okay. So let me ask you something. Like, for example, uh, an all-loving God that, and you agree that animals feel suffering. So I would think that an all-loving God would actually prefer if we avoid harming them needlessly. And about using the Bible to justify harming animals, like for example, we used to use the Bible as well to justify things like that we used to do in the past, like slavery. Would you disagree with that?
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I think slavery is wrong, but some people used to justify in the Bible, and there's actually lines in the Old Testament that actually specifically talk about how to treat your slave and stuff like that.
Yes, and it's probably found in the end of Genesis, beginning of Exodus.
Yeah,
With
and like sure. And for example, do you think that moral progress is actually a good thing? Like for example, in biblical times there used to be slavery going on. Women didn't have rights, homosexuals didn't have rights, but as the Judeo-Christian civilization has progressed, we have actually progress morally as well. And we, for example, we thought slavery was very wrong, so we made it illegal. We gave women rights, we gave homosexual rights. So, do you think that an all loving God that wanted us to use reason, so he gave us reason, do you think he would actually uh, think this is that moral progress is actually a good thing for civilization? And do you think that we should actually extend moral consideration to animals as well? Or do you think we should leave it as at humans?
So everything you just realized had nothing to do with God. That had to do with people. People made things unmorally right. People made slaves. People made unjust ruling. People made all these instances that you brought up in the past. And also, it also says in the Bible that the first blood that was shed was because when sin entered the world and Adam and Eve had the knowledge that they were naked, God had shed the animal's blood in order to clothe them. So it was never the intention of animals being in pain. And I would also like to justify that I did not use the Bible as a source for having animals in pain. I used it as a source to justify the choice for people to make that do want to eat animals as their sources
Okay,
of protein.
sure, yes, and I would actually agree with you that the Bible doesn't say anything, that doesn't have anything against eating animals. You say that it also doesn't justify slavery and for example killing homosexuals and stuff like that. I don't know about that. Some people say the Bible has certain passages that uh, that justify slavery and
But
and
also probably be found in the Old Testament back
sure, yeah,
before
exactly. So
Jesus.
yeah, so the New Testament wouldn't allow for that. Yeah, so my question, well, I lost my train of thought, but
So
anyways, you wouldn't say that. Yeah, so let me remind me where we were at again.
um justify slavery and like the Bible.
Okay. So yeah, I remember what I was gonna say. So, like, I agree with you that God gave us permission to eat animals. For
Mhm.
example, if we had to survive, and I actually agree with that. If I were in a survival situation, I would probably also kill an animal to eat. But we have other options available to us, at least in Western civilization. So, would you say that an all-loving God would prefer if we stayed away from killing animals, or you do you think that he would be totally indifferent to that?
Um, I believe it's the intention.
The intention. Okay, so what would be
Like
an intention that justifies it?
someone that is trying to live right and just eating whenever food is given to them. because food will come to those who do not worry about food. And food will come to those anyway, but food will come so we do not have to worry about it. And if those are just eating to have food and in order to fill their stomachs and go on from day to day, and they're not boasting and thinking that the way that the factory farms is great and all this kind of stuff, if they're eating animals solely for food, even though food, like, I get happy whenever I get to eat because I don't like being hungry. It makes me cranky.
Yeah, same here.
So in that sense of pleasure, that and just the fact that we're eating to supplement, or not supplement, but we're eating to supply our bodies with the strength. I think
Sure.
that we have the choice to either eat animal or be vegan, because technically back then we most likely could have survived on not eating animals, even though it would have been a lot harder.
Exactly, it would
It's
be more hard. Yeah.
it would be more hard, but it wouldn't be impossible. So I think that
Yeah,
there
there
will be a
used to be
choice from the
vegetarians.
first day.
There used to be vegetarians back then, like in all sorts of religious traditions.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think also some like big names in Christianity used to be vegan as well. Although I can't recall anyone right now. But yeah, I would say to that there's actually all kinds. There's many kinds of foods, and I would say that there's a big difference between just eating what is nutritionally adequate for you, like from plants, and harming animals, which are sentient. Like I would say that, yeah, it's actually very good to feel pleasure from food. It's okay, but I would say that the life of the animals has actually higher value than taste pleasure. Would you agree with that? What do you
Um,
think has higher value, your taste pleasure or the life of the animals?
if we're just going on taste alone, probably the animals, but if you factor in that
Yeah.
you're having the food, you're enjoying the taste, but you're having the food to fill your belly,
Yeah, but you
then
could
it's
feel
different.
you could fill your belly with something else, right? You could choose something else in the menu. You could fill your belly on a plant-based diet. So it isn't that isn't the reason, right? Because there's all the alternatives that don't involve participating in this in what you yourself agree is immoral, which is factory farming.
So I have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
Have you ever seen any playthrough of the Walking Dead 2? Um
I
uh the
actually have
um
not.
the Telltale games?
I have not. Sorry.
Okay. So there is a scene, um spoiler. There is a scene in the game that basically a wild dog had attacked the main character because she had found a can of food, right? And she was fighting for her life and basically knocked the dog out of the way, and the dog was hurt very, very, very badly and was in pain and suffering. Now, Telltale games are famous because it's a choice-based game. So you could either choose to let the dog, you know, go on its own, because the dog was stuck in like barbed wire kind of thing. So it would have just been stuck there. Or you could have put it out of its misery so it wouldn't have to suffer. And wouldn't you say that that's an entirely different um moral approach no matter what decision you make?
Of course, yeah, and I would actually be in favor of mercy killing. Yeah, if something is suffering miserably and
Mhm.
it's what's gonna die anyway, I would think putting it out of its misery is actually a good thing. Yeah,
So for me, the cattle, I do not want them to go through a slow like transformation from cow to product. Like I don't want that to be slow. I want them to not feel pain. But I also have the values that I know that I am able and allowed uh, to eat meat if I do so choose. And I know that sorry. I
bless you.
know
That's cool.
thank you. I know that oh shoot, my train of thought. Like I know that I'm able to eat meat if I choose, but I think that the morally standard that you're putting on, we do disagree with factory farming, but the moral standard of choosing a different meal over a meat-based meal is different for the fact that someone that is eating meat to fill their bellies with protein based stuff because they are not a vegan. I feel like that is morally accepted based on how I view it. Uh,
Sure. So you're saying that animals are gonna have a slow death, and you prefer to like put it out of the misery? Is that what you're saying, or am I
what I'm saying
misunderstanding?
is that what I'm saying is that like if these factory farms are putting animals through slow death and it's harming these animals really badly in that way, then people should stop buying into that company,
Of
like,
course, of
entirely.
course. Yeah, and there's
But
actually
if
99% of the meat that they sell in the United States comes from factory farms. So why do you personally don't feel morally obligated to stop supporting that industry?
well, me, I basically base it off of I'm allowed to eat meat, and it is my choice of where to get my protein, and
Sure, and that's actually where I disagree with you. I don't think it is just a personal choice if there's a victim involved. So this it actually becomes more than just a personal choice.
yeah, I get that. But
Sure.
I also believe that is differently because you and me agree that human life is it means significantly more, and so basically if animals' lives don't mean as much as humans, and we are able to use animals as food, I didn't mean to say it like that, as food, basically, like let me gather my thoughts. If we're able to use animals as food and we know that we as humans are viewed as more important than said animals, if you use an animal for food and not kill just to kill, I believe that that is morally right. I don't
Okay,
believe in
so
suffering of that
I
animal.
I agree with you that humans have higher value. I have maybe different reasons for it. So I think we have a higher capacity for well being and stuff like that. And so I would say that we do have a higher value, but that does from that it doesn't logically follow that therefore it's okay to harm any animal because it has a low value. So I wanted to stay on the topic of factory farms because you actually agree with me that it is immoral, and it's 99% of the times that we do that we obtain meat that way, and I might not convince you and the other 1% that it's not okay to kill an animal, even if it has a happy life, if we have other options. But I want to push you on the factory farms because you're actually financing those industries that you agree are wrong. Uh, you are. Do you know about the concept of supply and demand?
So higher in supply and
Supply and demand. Yeah.
yeah, supply and demand. Supply being the meat, demand being people. When people demand more, that's when a lot of meat's bought out in at a time, and that usually makes prices go up because there's less of meat to go around. This is about anything, but
Exactly.
and as for if supply is high, usually prices are cheap because they don't want things to ruin. So that's basic overview of supply and demand.
Yeah,
Now,
and the other thing is that I actually hear myself. I hear an echo.
oh no.
Yeah, I don't hear anymore. So okay, so supply and demand means as well that the only reason these factory farms exist in the first place is because individual consumers like yourself and like most people are willing to buy those products. So what would happen if people stop supporting financially factory farms? What do you think would happen?
Well, if people stop financially supporting factory farms have bills to pay and they have meat, product would go bad. They would not be able to sell anything, and they would basically could go bankrupt, could just lose out on a bunch, and it would waste a lot of product. And I mean, you could take that as far as putting it on strike. Um,
Yeah, so veganism is actually like a form of boycott. Yeah.
yes, which is a form of strike for the people that didn't know. Um, so boycotting, so to speak, is not buying a product based on strike-like material because they do not believe in the cause of whatever it is. So the reason why people do buy into it, or at least why I do, is really because several reasons. I mean, we can't change. We know that we can't change the factory farms, and the people that do eat meat
Why do
probably
you
do
think
not
that?
have.
What? Excuse me, but I wanted to push you on that one right there. Why do you think it won't change?
Well, because I think it can change, but I think a lot of people won't want it to change. And if someone is open to having a bunch of land and having free roaming animals, I would buy into that company a lot more than I would in
Yeah, but
factory
would you
farming.
say what would you say it's even possible to feed 7 billion people with free roaming animals?
If you did it the correct way, possibly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it actually takes a lot of land
Yes.
to keep animals that graze and stuff like that. So it actually would be completely unsustainable for the environment to keep to. So factory farms are actually necessary in that sense if there's
Okay.
so high a demand for meat. So and you agree with me, right? That those farms are immoral. So why do you think it is okay to keep financially supporting them?
Well, like you said, if there's like you said, if there's no other way to be able to get meat, that would be the only way for people that choose to eat meat to supply their meat demand.
Yeah, but
And
why would you choose meat if you actually disagree with the way they are producing that meat?
because usually if you do vegan diets, you have to eat high in demand all those products. And
What do you mean by that?
uh like it takes a lot more vegan protein products to equal that of a hamburger.
Yeah, so not necessarily like actually it's very hard to be deficient in protein if you are eating enough calories. So if you're eating a well balanced diet and if you're eating enough calories, it's actually very hard to be deficient in protein. And as you said, there's vegan protein supplements for people that wanted to do bodybuilding and stuff like that. So that itself wouldn't be the problem.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, so and I actually and I have sympathy for you, right? Because I used to eat meat too. Like it's a tradition, right? We've been brought up this way. Like our parents ate meat and they fed us meat, and their parents eat meat, and it goes all the way back to the past, right? So but my
mhm.
only argument here is that maybe we should question these traditions that are cruel and that harm others, right?
And I get that. I guess the one last thing that I could basically say is the morality of the certain person. To me, to me, that would be what would matter. Is the people eating meat, are they wanting the animals to suffer? And if not, are they eating them for food, or are they just wanting that for sport? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if they're
but
wanting to eat
would you
meat,
say that that's a good justification though? The eating them for food, why would that be a good justification if there's other options available?
mm, let me think. To the Bible, it's just they were given to be able to be used as a resource. And so
Yeah,
if
but
that's a certain type of resource, we're able to use it. It's kind of like you can get grain or carbs from several different things. Why do you choose one over the other? I mean,
yeah, but I would actually say that if an all-loving good God actually exists, he would totally disagree with holocausting 70 billion animals and trillions of fish. I would say that God actually would think that's wrong. And if we could support ourselves without harming animals in that quantity in factory farms like that, and we moved away from it, I would think that according to the Bible, that would actually be a good thing. Would you disagree?
give me a second.
Yeah, so let me just add something really quick. Like the only reason these factory farms exist in the first place is because individual consumers are willing to consume those products. So what would actually happen if the world went vegan? And maybe won't happen all at once, but if people started going vegan, the factory farming would actually become irrelevant. It would stop existing. We would stop breeding animals massively, and yeah, it would stop existing if we stop consuming those products. So the only reason they exist in the first place is because people are financing those industries with their money. Every time you buy those products, you're actually voting with your money, and you're saying that's okay. Keep mass breeding animals, keep torturing them and killing them for food.
Well, I don't necessarily think that just because um the factories would be disbanded, that would necessarily stop people from eating meat, just so to speak. Because
Yeah, yeah. What you mean is that even if the factory farms became irrelevant, you think people would still eat meat like on a more you know in a more sustainable basis or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's actually not sustainable to feed 7 billion people with meat. So actually, meat would be like a very luxury item. If that actually happens, if factory farms stopped existing, meat would stop being a cheap product. And if some people were even willing to consume expensive meat from free roaming animals, that would be, it would keep existing. At that point, I would say it actually would have to become something. It would actually we have to pass a law or something make this illegal, which I think, like, what I say to people is that uh, stopping consuming these products is the best way to go, like on a choosing more compassionately and stop consuming those products. But if the whole world doesn't go vegan, then it might have to be the case that we might have to, if we wanted to bring about a vegan world, to make it illegal. And I believe that veganism extends logically from human rights. So I would say I would agree with a law like that. I'm sure you would disagree, but
So I do want to kind of challenge you there. You said vegan rights are outdone from human rights. So
that they extend logically from them.
so if humans are if humans are looked at as differently from animals, um, how necessarily can you back that information if you say that they should be looked at as humans at the same time?
Yeah, so I would say that animals and humans are similar enough in the ways that matter morally, at least. So, for example, we both humans and animals, we have the ability to suffer. We feel pain. We have a will to live. So, in the same way, we should protect humans and give them a right to live and not to be exploited. I think those basic rights should be extended to animals as well.
Okay. And
Yeah. So,
I
what do you think about
agree
that?
with that.
You agree with that?
I agree with that. I agree that we shouldn't treat animals morally. Although, when you're looking at just food wise, when you're. Because think about it like this: do you think it's morally right that, say, a lion or a bear or whatever would
Sure.
eat a human being? Oh,
Yeah, so there's actually a very important difference there. It's moral agency. So those animals, they don't have the same moral agency as we do, and they actually doing what they have. They're doing what they have to do to survive in nature. We, on the other hand, we have we know the difference between right and wrong. We have moral agency, and we have other alternatives. So if we can make more compassionate alternatives, why would we imitate wild animals in that way?
good challenge. Good challenge. But what I was trying to get at there is that it's the food chain per se, I guess. And I get that it is different because we
Yeah.
are morally more complex, but just in my beliefs, animals should not be treated exploitedly. They should be treated as such in good conditions.
Yeah, and
But
you would agree with me that we are actually exploiting them in the factory farm settings, correct?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
But
So
what I would say is that if an animal were so to be used for food, that is not wrong.
yeah, so you bringing up again the food chain, which I see that you called it the food chain this time and not the Lion King
I
circle.
know.
That's good. Yeah, so the food chain, I actually agree with you that biologically humans are opportunistic and we are omnivores. But do you know what biologically omnivore means? Do you know what it means?
Yes, it means we can sustain on plants or uh meat.
Exactly. So we could digest plants or animals, right? So it's about or. Not, we don't need both to survive. We can digest both, but we don't need both to survive or be healthy.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I
I
would
think it all
see.
just comes up on the. I don't think that there is a complete right answer or a wrong answer because, I mean, morally, we both can be considered right because we both draw our morals from different aspects. Because all the things you're saying about morals completely make sense. and the things about my morals to why I'm justified for like being able
Sure.
to only use animals like that for like that for food, because I don't believe in just doing that just to do that. You know, if you're going to cause an animal to lose its life, you're going to be eating that animal kind of thing, you know?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's
And
where I'm at.
yeah,
And
and that's actually what I'm interested about is just your morals. From your morals,
oh yeah.
does veganism extends logically from your morals, or are you actually being inconsistent there? And I actually think I found an inconsistency in your moral view, and it is exactly the factory farm issue, which you yourself think is immoral, but you still don't see anything wrong with supporting it financially. And I would think that I would think that that's a little bit of an inconsistency in your view.
Okay. And that's why you keep getting back to that. Okay.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
Yeah,
I
because
think
I'm sure I couldn't convince you on the immorality of just harming animals needlessly. Oh, I'm sorry, not harming. You're against harming them, but about killing them for food needlessly. If we had other options, I'm sure I couldn't uh, make you agree with me on that one, because your morals are just different enough from mine that you would never see a problem with that. But you do see a problem with factory farming, and I just would say that I believe that it's inconsistent that you are still supporting it financially.
I do see your point though. It's more I choose to eat meat because of the fact that I believe that you're not necessarily morally wrong, as long as you're not making the animal suffer.
Yeah, but
Um,
you do think it's morally wrong. You agree that it's wrong to keep them in factory
oh
farms.
yeah,
So
no, no, no. I was talking about eating, just eating meat in
yeah,
general.
but that's not
But the
what
thing
you're
is
doing
about it
alone.
is that oh, I was gonna go back to it. Nah,
Okay, go ahead. Sorry for cutting you.
no, you're all good. I don't believe it's morally right to make animals suffer to eat meat, but to use them as food, and just that's the way you use them, and if that's the way they go, um, then you're morally your choice to have that is up to you based on what you believe is morally right. And that's what I believe I'm able to eat meat. And so if you're using them for food, then and not just to harm them, then that is why that is justified. Now for the farms, the way it is really sad how they're all kind of crammed in there and treated throughout it. I do believe that that is sad,
Sure,
but I
and
think that
and that right
people that
there is just what I like to go back into, and I actually have to go pretty soon. But
okay,
like that's my point right there.
that's
That
where
you
the
you you think
inconsistency is.
you think it's sad, so why would you support it financially? And that's why I see inconsistent in your
Yeah.
view. It's 99% of all the meat comes from those places. So if you had the option of eating something else, and we agree that a plant-based diet is nutritionally adequate and that is actually quite cheap, so that my question would be, why would you still support it? And
I
I actually understand that it's convenient, and we were raised this way and it's
mhm.
traditional, but I would say that that alone is not a justification, and we have the moral obligation to question traditions that cause unnecessary suffering to others, including animals.
I think it's just because I know a lot of meat eaters that know it's sad, and a lot of like pretty much everyone knows it's sad, but like we said before, it's pretty unrealistic to sustain an entire country, with America being as big as it is, um, if it wasn't with those factories. And I think a lot of meat eaters,
I
since they
don't think
do have
that's true.
those
Okay,
choices to
can I
eat
challenge that really quick? So we're actually feeding 70 billion animals. What do you think those animals eat?
grain.
Yeah, they eat plants. So we could actually, instead of feeding all those animals, we could actually feed ourselves with that. We could actually feed humanity like 3 times around with
Yeah.
just plants.
No, what I was meaning is based on meat, not just the country just to feed them. I was meaning like feed the country the meat part of it. Um, so what
Yeah, but
I
do you agree with me that it would like, for example, if you believe something is immoral, do you think that tradition and convenience alone is a justification, or you think that we might have an obligation to move away from practices that we personally believe that are immoral?
based on those specific words, I agree with you, but based on adding animals just for food, or even just the eggs or milk products, like the off products of animals to the factor, I don't believe that um, using animals for food or using their like off products of animals for food is necessarily immoral. It's
Yeah,
immoral.
and that is where I would say that you're being inconsistent. And I have to get
Okay.
going, but I want to say a couple of things and ask you one last question.
Okay.
So yeah, so I would say about that if you personally think it's wrong what they're doing to animals in factory farms, then I would say you have a moral obligation to not financially support factory farms. And I see an inconsistency in you supporting it anyways. And I understand, because we are brought out this way. It's traditional, it's convenient. But I would say that if you really think it's wrong what we're doing to the animals in those settings, then I think you have an obligation to move away from it. And I would say that veganism actually makes sense from a whole a whole lot of different point of views, not only ethically. So obviously, it's a very solid ethical position, but it also makes a sense from a health point of view. So as the declaration that I sent you is, it actually says that it's not only healthy, but it offers health benefits.
You quit talking.
I'm sorry, where did I?
Health benefits.
Yeah, so it offers health benefits as well, and it's another reason to go vegan is that it's very good environmentally. So right now, animal agriculture is the leading cause for environmental destruction and global warming and all sorts of catastrophes that are going on in the planet. Like for those animals that we're killing for food, they have to eat, and so the majority of the grains in the world are actually going to animals. So like 80% of the grains that we grow, we actually feed to animals instead of feeding humanity. And another reason to go vegan would be public health reasons. So, for example, I know that the United States has been impacted with the COVID, right, as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so like 75% of modern infectious diseases come from animal agriculture and from our use and abuse of animals as well, including the more recent COVID. It actually came from using animals like for bats or pangolins, and all sorts of pandemics like MERS, SARS, bird flu, swine flu, uh,
I'm sorry,
Ebola.
how did you say that COVID was created?
It was a zoonotic disease. So what zoonotic disease means is that it jumps from animals to humans.
Um Actually, I read online that it does not transfer between animals to humans. It's only through bodily fluids, like maybe sweat, eyes, nose, coughing, mostly sneezing, stuff like that. It's transferred through that from human to human. It does not affect anything about animals.
Yeah, but you said that it transferred from a bat to a human, right?
From a what?
From a bat, or you
No,
didn't
not a
say that?
bat.
Yeah, so there's a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff about where the COVID came from, but most scientists agree that it was a zoonotic in origin. That means that it jumps from animals to humans, and most modern infectious diseases actually come about this way. I'm not an expert in public health or anything, but you
Hmm.
should look it up if you. And there's a wonderful book that's called "How to Survive a Pandemic" by Dr. Michael Greger, who's an expert in this kind of stuff, and he makes this argument that we should stop animal agriculture because most deadly diseases that we face in the modern world actually come from our use and abuse of animals. So that's one reason. There's plenty of reasons. Like there's also like, and we're feeding animals with a bunch of antibiotics, and like it might become it might come about a problem, but a bacteria might adapt to the uh, uh, what's called the freaking yeah, the antibiotics. They become, they evolve really fast, and they might become immune to the antibiotics and might jump from animals to humans. So there's all sort of problems. I would say that the most important one is the ethical one, but there's all sort of reasons. And I just wanted to challenge you. I know it's almost impossible to convince someone in just a
Oh
single
yeah.
conversation, but yeah, but I just wanted to challenge you and make you question this tradition that I think is really cruel, and you agree with me that what we are mostly doing to animals is cruel.
And I really want to thank you. This was actually a really good time. I mean, even though we don't agree on every single aspect, and you did challenge me to think about the whole uh, buying aspect. Because it is true. But I do know that a lot of people here in America like can't necessarily drop everything, own their own cattle, and then get meat that way, if they do so choose. If they do so choose. And so I think that people just do it because it is convenient. And um, I know why I feel morally right for using animals as food, but yeah, the way that we go about it, or not we, but like factory farms, I guess in general, I do think that that is kind of like it's hard to know exactly like what immoral justice goes in the factories. But yeah, I think it's just something that people are just accustomed to in their everyday life. But it was really fun to have that challenged, and a lot of people can't have a normal conversational debate without getting really heated, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that this was actually really fun even though we
It
disagreed on
was,
certain
yeah, I
points.
agree. It
Like
was,
even
and
though
I
we
love
even though we
conversation.
disagreed and we didn't totally convince each other, and that even though you were just like you called me out and you were like, "Oh wait, that's like how come you're saying that?" I thought it was fun because I'm like, "Oh shoot, yeah, why?"
Yeah, sure, and I agree with you. It's really fun, and you're very intellectually honest, and you're very reasonable. And yeah, my whole purpose wasn't to actually win a debate or convince you. It
Oh
was
yeah,
more to challenge you and get to the
informed
truth, right? To get to the truth and
and
question
informed
this
and just
topic.
kind of
Yeah, yeah,
spread it.
like raise awareness, of course.
Yeah, and I took it as that, and I know for a fact that you were very like how do I say apologetic, like saying like oops sorry that's not how you were that that's not how you were meaning it, because a lot of people get very offended nowadays.
Yeah, of
Now,
course.
whenever
I
I
wouldn't want it to mischaracterize you, and yeah.
oh yeah, whenever I felt like you may have been misinformed of how I was saying it, that's whenever I would further add further add a bit to it. But any other time, like I knew how you were trying to speak, so I wanted to make sure you did not worry about that with me, at least.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. So I just have one last question for you, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you could live a life where number one, you harmed humans, number two, you harmed animals, or number three, you harmed neither, what would you think would be a more compassionate and uh, and a better way to live your life?
Mm, you see, that question's kind of set up in favor of veganism anyway. Like, so to speak, because the thing is that uh meat eaters are not out to eat meat to harm animals. Like,
But it is one of the consequences, right?
yes. But because you know that I'm gonna pick like harm no one, because no one wants to harm
Sure, I
anyone.
appreciate
Just
that.
like, and that's why I'm gonna challenge that and say situational.
Sure, of course,
Like,
and I would say that I know that your intent is not to harm them, but I would say it's just an inevitable consequence of how we produce animals, how we
like
produce meat today.
like from me being a meat eater, uh, from me being a meat eater, situationally, it would change the moral attitude. But based on your question, harming no one would be ideal.
Of course, yeah, harming no one, like doing our best to minimize unnecessary suffering. I think that's a very reasonable way to live your life. And yeah, I would say that that right there is just veganism in simple terms. It's just trying to
I
reduce
told you,
unnecessary suffering.
I told you it was in favor of veganism.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so minimizing suffering is a very good way to live your life, and I would also say that uh, uh, not only minimizing suffering, but avoiding violating the rights of other beings. And I would say that animals deserve moral consideration and rights, at least basic rights, in a similar way to humans. So yeah, so that's that. And thank you for agreeing having a conversation with me. And if I end up creating the YouTube channel, I'll send you the link.
Oh yeah, that would be really fun. I hope that I don't get roasted because I don't agree
No, no, it's
completely.
cool.
But
I don't agree with that. So if there's any of my future viewers that roast you, I would condemn that. I don't think that's cool at all.
oh yeah, no, but it was really enjoyable. Even though, like, of course, we didn't agree on everything, but I think that these are healthy conversations to just be an adult over and just talk it out. And I really enjoyed the information, the new knowledge that I have now. It's really sorry, I need to sneeze again. Okay, it went away.
Bless you.
Oh, nah, so the new information is really, really intriguing. And it's really cool to know more about how what my friend went through, because of the fact that like I did have a discussion with him, because this was back in high school, and I was just worried because I just got out of my culinary class, and I wanted to make sure that he was safe and healthy. And he told me that he did everything necessary and he was getting the perfect amount of vitamins, and that's why I was just like, okay, that's good. Like that's good. That's his choice. And I just kind of left
Yeah,
it at
sure.
that.
Cool. So now you understand where he was at, or she, morally. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also understand like a lot more of why uh they were okay with like nutrient wise.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
So yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. And as you can see, like English is not even my first language, so this went better than I expected. So yeah, so
how many
have
people
a
have
great one.
you
Have a great
interviewed?
night. What's that?
Oh, okay. How many people have you interviewed on this topic? Or am I the first?
Yeah, so I actually recorded another conversation earlier today, but just in the middle of the conversation, the guy dropped off. I think his internet died or something. It
Oh, really?
wasn't actually it didn't seem like he fled from me or anything. It seemed like technical problems. So I don't think I could use that debate. I asked if he wanted to try again in the future, but yeah, you're actually the first one that I completed to record the conversation.
Oh my goodness. How does it get recorded? Like, does it post in the chat of the Discord?
Yeah, so I don't understand that this is this Craig bot right here is recording, and it's supposedly when I stop when I tell him to stop, the whole conversation would appear in a link. Like it is recording, and then it will appear in the website, like for me
Oh,
to see.
wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I've never seen this bot before. That's why.
yeah, I
Okay.
found about it today as well.
Oh shoot. Okay, well, I'll be looking forward to the video and thank you for being very nice and I guess accepting my views with the whole meat thing and challenging and
Likewise,
it's
and
really cool.
I respect everybody, and I know we are raised this way. I don't think you're a bad person or anything like that.
Oh yeah, and I also think it is where you're morally at, what you consider because I consider like certain animals to be like food and I believe that is morally right while like of course I don't want the animals to be tortured just cuz I want them as food. Like other people may think differently. They may not care or they could be on the other spectrum like you and be like I think that it's all morally wrong. And so it just
Yeah,
depends
exactly.
on
I
where you're
would
at
say that
here
it's
in life.
wrong. It's wrong in as much as it's needless. So if we have to survive, I wouldn't see. I would see as justified. But if it's just if it's just needless, if we have other options, that's where I see the ethical issue right there.
Okay. Yeah, and that totally makes sense. But yeah, that like I said, like a lot of people like morally in how their brain makes it up sees it differently. And I'm sure that there's people out there that may not know about factory farms or may not even really care and like it may not even bother them, and because
Yeah,
I don't. So people are just different,
yeah,
so that's
and it wish it should be a question. Like I think people should care. I see it as a moral emergency. What's going on with animals right now, and yes,
mhm.
we should at least at least extend a little bit of moral consideration and mercy to animals. Yeah. So anyways, Sparkle Bubble 12, have a great night. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.